Thank you so much. So we have 20 minutes, which is no time at all to talk about this particular subject. It's brilliant to have Jess and Freddie here. I'm going to let them do most of the talking, but I'm going to set the scene a little bit. Annie Knight, Andrew Tate, Bonnie Blue, Alden Ross, Iggy Azalea, Jordan Peterson. What do these mega influencers have in common, and are they 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus sides of the same coin? Jess, discuss.
What they all have in common is that they know how to play the current game, and it's a game. They know how to fuel outrage. They know how to appeal to what is sadly our human worst instincts. The desire to feel part of a tribe, the desire to feel outraged in some way, and the need to have binary certainty about something. And they sell to all of these triggers, which the current zeitgeist is promoting and is incentivizing through the platform economics.
Freddie.
Yeah, I mean, just to build on that, the two probably sharpest edges of the 6 different sides that you mentioned are probably the kind of Bonnie Blue, Annie Knight area, and then the Andrew Tate, right? And I think that there's something very similar that those two people have in common, which is that Andrew Tate tried to game the algorithms. He recognized, as Jess has just outlined, that if you focus just on outrage, if you focus on just eliciting a passionate response from people who watch your videos, maybe it's hatred, maybe it's anger, maybe it's fear, maybe it's humor, then you'll get seen on the algorithm. And Bonnie Blue just noticed exactly the same concept, right? If you do something that sounds, can I swear, fucking mental, right? People are going to be like, what the fuck? And we've seen this for years, right? This is no different from Jackass. Bonnie Blue is Steve-O, but a sexualized version. It's pornographic Steve-O aimed at young boys. The whole point of it is that people are going to go, oh my God, someone can treat their body in such a way just for clicks, just for attention, just for money. And so then the question you have to ask yourself is, why are the algorithms set up in such a way to satisfy this part of curiosity in our brain that can then be used and monetized? And that's where we are. That's the world we're currently living in. That is the fishbowl we're currently swimming in. And if you don't like it and you're upset about it, then there's a broader question, right, about why we allow ourselves to be pulled in attention in this way.
Jess, you have started something called ScrollAware. Can you tell the audience a little bit about what's motivated you?
Irony. So I have been, for the last 20 years, building tech businesses. Some very successful, some less so successful. But ultimately, I've been in the business of trying to monetize attention. Let's be honest. That's what most consumer technology businesses have been doing for 20 years. I guess my Muhammad to the mountain moment, or the last couple of years, has been firstly having 3 children, and watching them grow up in a world which is increasingly anxious, increasingly toxic, with very, very binary aggressive narratives where anxiety is spiraling out of control, where people struggle to connect, where communities are in decline. I saw all of these different, very worrying trends in society coming together. The extremism that we're seeing in terms of politics and rhetoric, obviously the manosphere stuff, but ultimately Brexit, Trump, all of these. It's like event after event after event that is showing us that we're not talking to each other, we're not understanding each other, and we're all tuned into totally siloed information where we don't see the other side, we don't engage, and we don't understand. And I guess it was profound worry for the world that my children are growing up in and how I parent them in this age that prompted me to start ScrollAware, which very briefly is a social enterprise, and it seeks to tackle the attention economy, to bring these conversations out into the open, and to bring brands and organizations together in a collective alliance to put a more positive message out into the world. So our message is less scroll, more soul. And it's all about stoking a sort of digital defiance sentiment that is starting to grow now that says, hang on a minute, I am not to be mined for my attention. My attention is mine to choose what I will do with. And at the moment, it's being exploited by bad players, by all the behavioral science that is feeding us stuff that is addictive. It's not an attention economy anymore, it's an addiction economy. So my current social enterprise is looking to sort of address that balance and move the ratio back from scroll to soul.
54% of all global advertising revenue goes on 5 platforms. That leaves 46% for us lot. And it's a diminishing market. The attention economy is powered by AI, is absolutely changing the universe that I have worked in for the last 40 years. Freddie, you are a journalist, a documentary maker, an influencer, a podcaster, and only 24. Right, didn't I?
You got that right.
What is going on? Please
We've
explain.
just lost the fucking plot, haven't we? I mean, we've just gone a bit mental. Like, I grew up when I was 14 was when social media, Instagram was really taking off in the way that we kind of understand it today, in the kind of complete whole life consuming addiction infrastructure that it manages to manifest as. And all my friends that I've grown up with are mentally unwell as a result of this. And none of them would ever tell you that this thing has made them happier, more confident, more self-assured. You know, at what point do we start asking ourselves a question around our own agency about whether this is the thing that we want to participate in or not? And I think the problem is it is an addiction. You know, we are addicted to the content. It releases dopamine. So we keep scrolling and we keep scrolling. And then it's Sunday at 8 p.m. You ain't done anything all day and you feel like utter crap. And then you ask yourself, like, why did I let the day get away from you? Well, maybe the answer is you're addicted to your phone. And I think the reason why, you know, we are unable in some ways to really figure out how to, like, sort this problem out is because we can't see past ourselves being used by this machinery. That we can't, like Sarah Wynne Williams, the Facebook whistleblower, has just released her book, Careless People, which is inside account of working at the top level of Facebook on their government policy advisory work with Mark Zuckerberg's ear, with Sheryl Sandberg's ear. And what is one of the most important stories of that book? It's that young women who are looking at content that encouraged them to self-harm, who were worried about their weight and anorexia, were then sold advertising for cosmetics straight afterwards. The algorithms are designed to do this. They're designed to pick apart your insecurities. They probably know us better than we know ourselves in some ways about what we're actually worried about. And then they're designed to sell us stuff afterwards. And we're just all going, yeah, no, that sounds all right. That sounds good. The point is, guys, we have to take agency over these decisions. And that doesn't just, you know, go down to the attention economy. It goes down to what Jess is doing with ScrollAware about people being siloed and deciding that, you know, this is my camp, this is my information infrastructure, I believe what this person says. How many people in this room are listening to content that directly challenges their assumptions about the world around them? How many people? Love you. Right? That's what you have to do. But if you want to stay sane, you have to challenge yourself. Because information and knowledge is not just a game of deciding from day one what my biases are and then looking to confirm them with how I understand the world. You know, that's not how we've made advancements as a species. And I think what's really going on here in a broader sense is that AI is being seen at a macro level of governments as the tool of the future for power and control. And we live in a world now where might is right? Where people in positions of power, from Donald Trump to Vladimir Putin, are all saying, well, look, you have your sphere of influence, I have mine. And the thing that is going to be able to curtail and change that influence is technological prowess and power. So the US have handed over they've outsourced all of their decision-making apparatus to the people who are running these industries, and they're all crowding. You know, Amazon, let's put 50 billion now into figuring out AI. They weren't even in the race. Think about how much money is going into this stuff because they see it as a tool for control, as a tool for domination. And that is a battle that we find ourselves in right now.
Freddie, you're right. Money is being made. The influencer monthly income in US dollars across multiple platforms, mainly Insta, X, Kick, and OnlyFans, plus their own sites, are all integrated media platforms for the following influencers: Number 1, Andrew Tate. Bad months, 5 million. Good months, 11 million. Aidan Ross. Bad month, 4.2 million. Good month, 8.2 million. Bonnie Blue. 675,000. Annie Knight. 300 grand. So what do we conclude from this? Tate and Ross earn in orders of magnitude circa 8 to 20 times more than Bonnie Blue and Annie Knight. What do these figures tell us? Well, to me, they highlight the massive earning potential of high-velocity digital content and platform monetization models like streaming and subscription-based systems. And yes, AI did write that. However, this is my thought. They also illustrate that the price for advice and guidance is higher than watching women being videoed having sex with multiple men online. What do you think are the potential impacts of these models on Gen Z and more broadly society? Are we witnessing simply the beginnings of a new career path, a form of mass hysteria, or a reinvention of the age-old sex times social interaction and human degradation times trade tropes? Controversial, I know, but needs to be spoken to.
I think if you dwell on the data, you look at the numbers of what people are making, you look at the human psychology in play, you look at the power of these platforms, the money, the sheer billions that you've mentioned and the percentage of the ad spend that they take, it's fucking terrifying. The last panel I spoke at, 3 people in the audience started crying because they weren't actually aware of a lot of these data, and for parents in the room, worrying about what their children are being exposed to, the age at which they first get exposed to porn, the bullying that happens, the rabbit holes that they fall into, and the toll it's taking on children and their anxiety is so dramatic that it cannot be ignored. But it's adults too, and we need to be having this conversation as adults. All of us live in a state of overwhelm. Our brains are not designed to be exposed to the amount of information that we're exposed to. And we have the weight of the world on our shoulders. What the attention economy has done, I heard someone talk about this, I thought it was a brilliant analogy. If you think of ourselves in concentric circles, so we're in the middle, and the sort of global is on the outside. What the attention economy does is massively amplify the self, and frankly, narcissism. How am I made to feel about this? What is my identity? You know, how can I be improved? What's the hack for my productivity? It's me, 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 me. And then it's the global, global, global. What's going on in Palestine, what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening with climate change, what's happening with trans rights. And it's all of this drama, 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 and huge, huge takes. And people are walking around with the weight of global problems on their shoulders. You know, we used to live in communities of 150 people. You know, that was the information that we're exposed to. We cannot cope with this volume of depressing information. And bear in mind, doom sells. So it's a doom economy. The very worst case scenario is what gets amplified, not the incredible work that so many millions of people are doing, you know, day in, day out, the progress that's being made in medicine, all the good stuff is just drowned out by the outrage. But in that concentric circle, just to finish that analogy, the thing that has been totally hollowed out is the middle, which is community. It's people, place, and perspective. It's the fact that somebody would rather change their profile shot to a Palestine flag than worry about the food bank at the end of their own road, or the lady who lives next door but one that lives in total isolation and hasn't seen anyone for 3 weeks. You know, it's much easier to worry about the global than it is to actually do something. And yet happiness, true happiness, comes from people, place, and perspective. And the economy is totally focused on pleasure over happiness. Dopamine, hacks, consumerism, stuff, more, 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 more. That's what will make us happy. It doesn't. That's pleasure. It is, and that is the absolute opposite of happiness. What makes us happy are all of those deeper things in life. I'll come back to the optimism, because we will finish on an optimistic note, because it is depressing, profoundly depressing.
We will. But I've got to let Freddie have his say, because this is important, and you are the generation that have really never known anything different.
We've just hit peak consumerism, haven't we? I mean, as I was told off the record that one senior person at one of the social media companies said that they're impressions, not people. And I think that tells you everything you need to know about the people who are making decisions over this stuff. We are being used and we are being treated as consumers, not as people. And if you go through your life just treating everything as something to be consumed, as Jess has rightly pointed out, you won't have much of a life. You won't have much of a sense of your humanity. And I think my generation now needs to really look in the mirror and toughen up a bit, actually. Because all we're doing is saying that we're so anxious and depressed by the stuff we're consuming online, and it's making us feel terrible about ourselves. But you have agency. Put the phone down. Do you know what I mean, bro? Go touch some grass, right? Like, we've reached a time and a place to be a bit pissed off about this. But I'm also saying to, people of my era, what do you think happened 80 years ago when the world went towards war? What do you think happened? People got on with it. People decided that they were going to do something to try and make a difference. People tried to solve the problem. So we've got to try and do that now, right? We've got to take agency and accountability for these problems. We have to say we're going to invest again in community, and that starts at the micro level. It starts by checking on your neighbor. It starts by treating everyone with kindness, not because they've got 1,000 followers on Instagram.
Thank you. We have 2 minutes left, and I want to end on an optimistic note. Jess, what can we do as an industry?
Well, I think the first bit of good news is that the tide is turning. People are waking up to this problem. Obviously, working in the space that I am, I'm surrounded by the most incredible innovators that are building safer technology tools for children, that are working on offline events and initiatives that are reinvigorating community projects to provide alternative spaces for young people. And everybody's waking up to it. And ultimately, the money moves if the eyeballs move, right? And I think the fact that Freddie's here talking about this and is a voice of his generation, he is not alone. There was a fantastic statistic that came out, I think, a couple of weeks ago with Deloitte that said that 53%, it's just tipped over 53, of 18 to 25-year-olds now are saying that they wish the internet had never been invented, or that they support no social media access for children under the age of 16, because they recognize that they lost their childhoods to it. The analogy is, if you want your kid's childhood to end, give them a phone, or give them open access to the internet on a phone. And because people are waking up to this, the tide is starting to turn. Now, we're in a moment of a little bit of concern that if the government gets too involved, then the countercultural is going to be against government regulation and want to keep their phone. But if we can mobilize people power around this and get people to embrace what I call digital defiance, digital balance, digital detox, there's a lot of things coming then the brands will have to respond to that. Exactly the way that the sustainability industry grew, exactly the way in which green industries and more diversity and inclusion has spread through the industry. What starts as a tick box becomes an entrenched way of thinking once these issues are identified. And the most forward-looking brands can get involved now in saying, we need to have this conversation, we need to be a part of this conversation, just like DrinkAware, just like GambleAware. We're not going to have all the answers anytime soon, but we kickstart that conversation and we can impact the platforms and we can impact the consumers.
Agreed. Freddie, last word.
Cooperation. That's the word, right? We don't need to be in constant competition with each other. We can work together. It's really that simple. And it starts by taking action in your personal life and then mapping that onto the macro.
I want you to thank our speakers, please. Been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very, very much.